I could tell you, like as somebody who holds a PhD in social psychology, somebody who focuses on critical thinking, logic,
Yeah.
reasoning, I could do a better job than AI because I actually have AI connected to one of my sites, Logically Fallacious. When somebody posts a question on there, AI will automatically answer the question because I get
Oh,
like
that's
a
cool.
lot of repetition, a lot of like really basic questions, and now AI answers that for me. And for the most part, it does a good job. Like I wouldn't answer it quite that way, and I think like almost 100% of the time, I could answer it a lot better.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today, I have the honor to learn from Bo Bennett. Bo has a PhD in social psychology and is an entrepreneur. He has started multiple businesses and has even sold some of those businesses from a range of $1 to $20 million. In this conversation, Bo and I got to talk about some of the new technology that has been introduced, such as AI and how it's relevant to the publishing industry. I don't want to spoil the rest of the episode, but Bo was great on this one. He has such a depth of knowledge to share with you. So, without further ado, let's welcome Bo Bennett to the show. Well, I'm excited for this. I like to say that there's 3 reasons I do this. Number 1, I want to keep the audience in mind. Number 2, I hope you have a great experience. And then number 3, this is kind of my selfish reason, but I get to learn from fascinating people. So it's fun. But I mean, what's so fascinating, what kind of drew me to you was, I mean, you're in just a variety of things. Like you are the entrepreneur type of thing. So you started out in like social psychology, you got your PhD there, and then you also started some marketing companies. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, now you're in the like AI space, something like that. How'd you get into that? Like just
Through publishing.
Oh, peer publishing. That's the one I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
there we go.
Through publishing, that brought me right into AI.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so I saw the stuff you're doing with like peer publishing. I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to go that direction.
Okay,
but
yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
What do you do there? I guess is what I want to open up with. What's kind of the thing you do in regards to like AI and peer publishing?
Well, it was an attempt to write my own book. Well, I did write my own book. It was an attempt to publish my own book. I tried to get it published by the traditional outlets. This was back in 2004. So things were a lot different back then online. But it was a weird time that was transitioning from like really traditional publishing to self-publishing and online publishing. And it was at the very start of it. So I couldn't really find a good solution to publish my book. I sent my book to, this was my first book called Year to Success. It was about a 740-page book focused on success and well-being and all that. And I sent it to a bunch of like the traditional publishers, and I got letters back. Mostly they were polite rejections saying nobody wants to wait a year for success. If you want to like redo the book and resubmit it, like 7 keys to success, the 3 tips, that's what people want. I'm like, that's not what it's about. That's not how it works. So my whole concept with that is you just take small little incremental improvements over the course of a year. And by the end of the year, there'll be really huge, significant changes. And that's what helps you achieve success. That greatly increases your odds. So that was the whole concept of the book. So to change that just wasn't going to work for me. So anyway, I went the self-publishing route, and I looked up some companies online. And it was just really, really tough to get like an ebook created. And it was just like a really messy, long, drawn out, expensive process. I had to buy like $30,000 worth of my own books to get this done. And I had to have like a monthly agreement with a warehouse to warehouse the books. And it was just crazy. I mean, it was not a good process. So I figured like, okay, I could definitely clean this up. I could do a little bit better. So that's why I started a company called Ebook It. I didn't do that right away. It took me a few years to do that, but I eventually did. And then I published my book through Ebook It, and then I started helping other people publish their books, and it's been over like almost 13 years now. I've been doing that, and I've worked with well over 3,000 authors, published over 6,000 books. So it's been going pretty well.
That's awesome. So how did you incorporate then AI into this? Because I'm assuming you didn't originally start with that if you've been going for 13 years.
Yeah, no. There wasn't that around. It was all in science fiction back then, mostly, and maybe in some secret labs in huge companies.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, this all changed back in May of this year, because in March is when like the new version of ChatGPT came out, or
it's the GPT-4 model, I think.
Yeah. So I was on the waiting list for a long time. I wasn't one of the lucky people that got early access. But when I did get my access, that was in May. That's when I decided to type in a book description, because I was writing book descriptions manually and charging customers for it, and they would pay me like $80 or something. And it would take me a long time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of work. So I asked ChatGPT to write a book description, just kind of like joking around. Let's see what it does. And I was floored. I was blown away of what an amazing job it did with such little information that I gave it. I basically just fed it in the table of contents. And from there, it wrote a description better than I could have ever written it. And it did it within seconds, and it did it for free. So it was that I said, okay, this is going to change everything. And then, that was just a tip of the iceberg, writing book descriptions and all like the keywords, finding categories, helping with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing is writing books like ChatGPT with the help of like AI, not necessarily just ChatGPT. You can write amazing books, and you could have the AI write the book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I created my company, BookBud. It actually started with Pooks.ai with a P. Pooks.ai as for personalized books. It was a way to where you could feed it information about yourself, and you could have a book written on any topic you want that's completely customized to you. And that was like I thought it was like an amazing idea. And the books are so fun. They're so cool. It's like, how does this know so much about me? Of course, because you fed it the information, but it sounds amazing, and it's so personalized. So do you know, like when you read a book, they may use an example of like, oh, and maybe if you're hiking the Himalayas, and like, I don't hike the Himalayas, like why, that doesn't really relate to me. But what if like every example in the book could relate exactly to you? So that's what I was going for. So you tell AI, you fill out some information about yourself, and like, okay, I love snowboarding, I love martial arts, I like weightlifting. So you tell it about yourself, and now the whole book uses examples like specific to you, and that's just like part of it. But so I love the idea.
So in a way, it's almost like rewriting the story to fit you, type of thing. So like, there's a book that maybe is out there. Can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's a book that you want to read, and to make it more maybe personalized for you, you would input some information into your company, and then it would regurgitate kind of the information that is it's personalized to you. Things you're interested in can get you more into the book. Am I kind of hitting that?
No, that's exactly it. And you tell the book what you're interested in, what you like, what you want to hear. You guide the book too, and you could like really like, I don't really want to learn through examples. I want to learn through like bullet points, through facts. It could do that. So anyways, this was my kind of like my first shot at AI books, and it really didn't go over very well. I mean, it's still going out now, and there's still probably like maybe, I don't know, half a dozen people like on average per day that actually use it. It's a free site, so it doesn't even cost anything. You could go there and create a free book. It's a lot of fun, but the reason why that it really didn't resonate with people on a major level is because it's one of those things where you do it like, wow, this is neat, this is fun, okay, what's next? And I mean, that's it. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many fun, neat things out there. It's not something that really catches on and goes viral because people have other things to do. People have other priorities. So one of the priorities that people have is to make money.
Mm-hmm.
People want to make money, obviously. So that's when I started BookBud. That's BOOKBUD.ai. So BookBud is sort of like Books, but it creates nonfiction books that you could actually publish. And it does it in ebook
Interesting.
format, paperback format, and through my other site, authorvoices.ai, it does it in audiobook using like the most incredibly sounding human voices. Like you can't tell the difference. No standard ear could tell the difference unless you really listen closely. So with this site, for like $34 or $40 or something, people can create their own book and publish it. And that's
Mm.
when you publish a book. Well, that's when you start making money because
Yeah.
you make like $5 a month, whatever, like from a book that really doesn't do too well over the course of a lifetime. That's a lot of money. And that's just one book. So what if you did like, a dozen books, if you did like 100 books, and with AI, you could do 100 books. With AI, you could easily, with like BookBud, you could easily do a book a day. Like normally without
Mm-hmm.
this system, like if you just tried with AI, there's a lot of work involved, even when you're just like working with like ChatGPT or something. But with this system, it's all automated for you. So people can make a lot of money on it. So that's what really caught on. Once
Mm-hmm.
when you connect like AI, the technology, with something that people really want, and that's the opportunity to make money. And people love writing books too because they could focus on getting out a message that's important to them, and kind of flood the market with these books. So people like doing that as well. So
It,
that's what I've been doing.
I think it's also like, because I like to write just kind of in my free time sometimes, and it's a way to like just kind of throw some thoughts on a board. And that's actually the thing I like about just AI and what I've been testing is it sorts my thoughts for me. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
my mind can be so jumbled, like, okay, and then just trying to piece it all together, and it just lays it out in a nice structured format. I'm like, oh, that's what I was thinking. That makes so much more sense. But kind of, this is what I was thinking of when I was listening to you, and it sounds like a great idea, but there could be like concerns with like copyright and stuff like that. So how do you kind of like navigate that? So then maybe you don't run into issues in the future.
Well, fortunately, I don't have to. AI does a fantastic job with that. If you ask AI, like just ask it straight, say, like, is any of this plagiarized? Do you plagiarize? And it will tell you exactly how it works to create something completely unique that's not part of the public domain, or that's not out there. So it doesn't. And I didn't trust it at first. So I've done, I don't know, maybe like 70 books total between myself and my kids who are helping me out doing the books.
Mm-hmm.
The first maybe like a dozen books that I did, I ran everyone through the plagiarism tool to find out, like, is there anything in here that's plagiarism? And like nothing. I mean, you do anything through the plagiarism tool, you'll get like one sentence, like a common saying or an expression or something that's common. But besides that, I mean, nothing. It does a fantastic job at creating
Hmm.
original content. Better than humans do, as a matter of fact. I've worked with human authors, again,
Mm-hmm.
thousands of them for the last 13 years. And if you run their content through plagiarism, like alarms go off all the time. And not because they're like nefarious or they're bad people, but because subconsciously we pick up information that we hear and we forget the source. So we kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's called like source blindness. We take credit as our own, and we don't even realize it. And I catch myself doing that, like writing jokes and writing comedy. I'm like, ooh, that's really funny. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because I saw it on Seinfeld 20 years ago. so, so you got
No,
to be careful there. But AI has something built in for that, whereas humans don't. So that's like one area where AI actually does a better job.
And I think that's the cool thing about AI is that it pretty much does an analysis of everything that's ever been written and then comes up with something unique.
Yeah.
And that's what's fascinating. And then it's also based on the input that you give it. So, I mean, if you're not giving it great information, then I would guess there's probably a higher likelihood that maybe there is like the AI will use a phrase that someone else has used or something like that. And I like how you said to run it through a plagiarism checker, because I mean, even if you don't, then even if, let's say you go out and do that, then you can kind of rest assured know that, hey, this is original piece of content. And I do wonder though, with books, if let's say, like you said, we can churn out 12 books every I don't know, let's just say month or year, whatever it may be, and multiple people start getting in on this, wouldn't that make it so then almost there's no such thing as too many books, but wouldn't that create kind of more supply than rather demand? That's kind of my thought there.
Yeah, maybe. And I say maybe because I forgot like the crazy number, how many books are published on Amazon every day. This is before AI.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an obscene number, but we're a very voracious people. So, I mean, a lot of people that read a lot of books, and it seems like there's a match there. But you're right in that if we're able to increase the production like a tenfold or something, and yet the reading doesn't increase tenfold, what happens? Well, there's going to be a lot more books on the market, and it's going to be a lot more competitive. So the key is to kind of beat out the other books, and I think that the lower quality books will start dropping off, and that's one of the really interesting things about these AI books. I've written well over a dozen books myself, the old-fashioned way, like the before AI.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and it takes a long time, and you put like a lot into it, a lot of yourself into it. Now, admittedly, a lot of this process is, whether you call it therapeutic or just pure enjoyment. I like to write. People like to write. They enjoy writing. It's a really fulfilling process to write a book. And so many people I deal with, authors I deal with, say, look, I just want to get my book out there. I don't care if I make money. I know I'm probably going to lose money on this thing, but I just want to get it out there and make it available to people. It's kind of like getting a piece of yourself out there that you could share with other people. So there's something deeper to it besides just making a few quick bucks. So that's always going to be the case. But the reason I bring this up is because with all of the authors I worked with and the content that I've read, and I had a proof and edit and so forth, I could tell you with certainty that AI will do like a 95% better job in writing a nonfiction book. I don't know about fiction yet, because fiction is very different. But for nonfiction books, it could be like probably 95% of the authors in terms of content. I mean, it does a fantastic job, incredibly well researched. The writing style is very elegant. And well, you pick the kind of writing style you want. If you want it to be humorous, if you want it to be elegant, you want it to be scientific, it doesn't matter. You could pick it. But it's just like a really high quality book. And I feel like what's going to happen is as more AI books get out there, a lot of these authors who aren't really good, which is like 95% of them, they're going to start kind of going away. And we're just going to get better choices, better quality. And I think that's going to be a good thing. But I definitely do think that there's going to be more competition.
For sure. And I like that last part where there'll be more competition. And you mentioned how like 95% of the authors just kind of going to get dropped off. What's going to, I think it could push the 5% to do better content, because obviously they're in a mindset where it's like, hey, I just want to do better. I want to do great work. And so I'm curious, what does it take then to write a quality nonfiction book? Because you said the AI works well with nonfiction. I mean,
Right.
maybe we could dive into fiction later, but let's focus there.
So the
right now.
old-fashioned way you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a good example. Like AI writes at, I think right now it's generally a college level, a college student level, which is really good for most. And on some topics it could get a little bit better, maybe some a little bit worse, but it's really high up there. Again, higher than the average person would write a book. But I could tell you, like as somebody who holds a PhD in social psychology, somebody who focuses on critical thinking, logic, reasoning, I could do a better job than AI, because I actually have AI connected to one of my sites, Logically Fallacious. When somebody posts a question on there, AI will automatically answer the question, because I get like a
cool.
lot of repetition, a lot of like really basic questions, and now AI answers that for me. And for the most part, it does a good job. Like I wouldn't answer it quite that way. And I think like almost 100% of the time, I could answer it a lot better, a lot more accurate, just and get it in a lot more depth. So right now, and we're talking about like December, mid-December 2023, that's where AI is. But like, how long will somebody like me have that advantage? I mean, like, I think it's going to be gone very soon. I'm surprised. I'd be very surprised if not this time next year, but like by spring of next year, if I still hold that advantage. I would think that AI would be able to do a better job than I would, coming into the spring.
So what does that future look like then? If it does do a better job than you, like what are you doing every day if it starts replacing some of these tasks?
I do. Yeah. I don't do social psychology or critical thinking full time every day. You know, I still run businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your bigger question is, like, it's a serious concern. Like, is AI going to take away the jobs of a lot of people? And yes, like absolutely, it's going to. And I think for the younger generation, they need to kind of rethink where they're putting their time and their focus. And you got to think, okay, is artificial intelligence combined, especially with robotics, is this going to replace my job? Now, I don't know too much about robotics. I know that even when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, robots are going to take over, and they're going to take away all the jobs. And here I am 50 years later, and robots aren't doing that, with the exception of like auto factories. You know, there's very limited in terms of like the scope of everything. So they haven't taken over. I think AI is very different, but whereas AI kind of learns at an exponential, and it grows exponentially, whereas robotics kind of has that that standard curve. What do they call it? The curve where technology doubles every 2 years or something.
Oh, isn't it? I think that's in relation to like the transistor, but that's Moore's law or something like that.
Moore's law. That's right.
Yeah.
So so the technology kind of follows that curve. Yeah, and maybe not exactly, but I think that's where robotics is. But will robotics combined with AI, will that completely change? Like, with AI, can AI create better robots? You know, stuff of science fiction in a way, but still serious. But the point is, I think that everybody needs to seriously rethink what they're doing and learn how to use artificial intelligence to their advantage, and learn how to change and be very flexible. Flexibility is the key here. And just change what they do in order to use AI as a tool to help them succeed in whatever they're doing. Because a lot of jobs will go away, that's for sure.
I agree. And on that, I mean, we've mentioned just a few skills. You kind of alluded to critical thinking. What are some of the skills then, people that are looking to like enter, like they're starting their career or whatever it may be? What skills should you look to develop to be prepared, I guess is the right
Yeah, I think I think everything could be kind of funneled into one skill, and that's like learning how to use artificial intelligence, starting with the tools that we have now. Now, ChatGPT and the other similar like Bard and the other competitors, those are all like one class of artificial intelligence, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the main class. Learning how to communicate with those and write prompts and just using it on a regular basis, that is going to be huge. I mean, that's a great start. And then there are kind of like technologies that are based on artificial intelligence that you could use as well. Like for me, I use the text to speech to do audiobooks, and so that's like another class of artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence that's not quite chat gpt or whatever, but and there's a lot of different things like that. So I think everybody has to consider what their area is, what their domain is. Like if you're in construction, then you got to think, okay, how could AI help me in construction? And you don't even have to think, you ask ChatGPT, I'm in construction, how could AI help me in construction? And you can get an entire book on it. So
There you go.
that's and again, that all comes down to learning and understanding what AI is and how to use it best to your advantage.
Exactly. And yeah, just even to add on that, because I've toyed around with it similar. I haven't quite as gone as far as you did, but uh, I have toyed around with like their vision, like Google's vision tech, and that's pretty cool too. They can like uh, pretty much take your camera and it can recognize uh, things that are going on
Right.
in your environment or whatever it may be. And it's not 100% accurate, and that's I think always going to be the case. There's nothing perfect, but I guess maybe the question I was getting at, or let me take a few steps back. I think one of the things I think is that uh, you have to be able to know the right question to ask in the first place to the AI. Because if you don't let's say have the knowledge beforehand to ask, like you don't even know what to ask in the first place, then you're kind of left hanging. And you're like,
Yeah. Just think how similar that is to just using Google before
mm-hmm,
AI and search. Like if you don't know the right questions to ask, or in this case the right terms to enter into like Google, you're not going to get the right information back. And I've seen that so many times in like programming. When I'm programming, looking for like solutions, you have to know exactly what to ask, otherwise you're not going to get the right information.
so have you programmed for a while?
Yeah. So I started programming back in 1994 when I first heard about the internet, because I wanted to create websites.
That's
So I
cool.
started learning the language, like programming languages, and yeah, I've been creating software ever since.
That's awesome. So yeah, kind of tell me about that. What was the first site you put up that kind
Well,
of
this is surprisingly very similar to my book story, like how
yeah.
I wrote a book and I was trying to publish a book, but there was nothing good online. So when I first got involved in the internet, it was again 1994. This was like just when the World Wide Web was announced, so like very few people knew about it. And I wanted to get a website because I'm like, okay, I'm a business, and so I was looking all around, and there were extremely few choices, and the few choices were like horrible. So I said, okay, I could do this better. I found a guy who like had a server farm, and I could get my own server there. And then with the server, I could use this software called Apache, and Apache was like a web server software. So I had to learn all about that, and then I had to learn about like scripting, like not just HTML,
Mm-hmm.
but like Perl scripting. Perl was the big one back then, like how to actually create these CGI where you could create a form and a discussion board. So that's what I did, and I created web-based software where anybody can, like who doesn't have a lot of knowledge, can just use like a web-based form to create a website.
Oh wow.
So that was my first company. It was called Ad Graphics, And that's the one that I eventually sold for $20 million in 2001, because I was in the right place at the right time, and I built something that people really needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So because the internet was exploding, I was right there, and I got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So I want to ask this: how do you? Because I mean, you said to be in the right place at the right time. How can you make sure, I guess, that you are in the right place at the right time? If for those that are wanting to be entrepreneurs, I mean, that's kind of.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't, but you can increase your odds. And what I mean by that is try not to get bogged down with like mundane things. I was in the right place at the right time, not only temporally, meaning I was there in 1994, but in 1994, I just graduated college. I I had no debt. I had a few $1,000s to my name, but I had credit cards. I was living in Boston in like a small apartment with like rent that was really cheap. And it was just a really good time to take some major risks. And that's what I did. I didn't have a family. I didn't have anybody had to support. I didn't have all these bills and mortgages. I didn't have another full-time job. I was just like, okay, what's the next thing? What's coming up? And that's what I mean by being in the right place at the right time. So I think that other people you could kind of create that opportunity to be in the right place at the right time by just, again, being flexible. The whole idea of flexibility comes back, where you don't have to like not have a job or not doing anything, but you have to be in a position where you can, whatever you're doing, you could put it all aside and just really focus and put yourself out there and focus on whatever it is that presented itself to you that you could kind of follow up on. So that's actually what happened with AI. I was really busy with book publishing, and
Mm-hmm.
I was developing a sitcom that I put on hold for several months, because I just put everything aside and I just went full force with the artificial intelligence because I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah. And I mean, I am interested about this because, I mean, this will kind of date me, but I've known nothing but the internet. So
Yeah.
like Google, all that. I've known nothing but that. So I'm curious, what are some of the parallels of, when the internet was kind of first being introduced and AI? Like, what are some of the things that are similar, you would say?
Yeah. So I call these, it's not unique to me, but I would consider them paradigm shifts in the way we live, the way we work, whatever you want to call it. Uh, I was born in 1972, so I grew up in like the 70s and the 80s. So the first big, huge paradigm shift for me was the personal computer, the PC.
Mm.
When I was going through school, I think it was like fifth grade when computers were introduced, and we had like the first computer lab. And it was just like the most amazing thing ever. And it was one of those times when your mind's kind of blown, like, wow, this is amazing. So I had like the Commodore 64, if you're familiar with that, like just like a really huge type of old computer with the green screen that has like maybe 20 pixels vertical, 50 pixels.
Oh boy.
So I mean, it just completely different, but it was so fun, and it was so amazing, all the things you could do with it. So that was the first big paradigm shift, but I was obviously way too young to get on board with that. But the next one was the internet, and that was 1994, and that's so like before that there was no internet. There was no commercial internet, I should say. The internet's been around for a long time, but people didn't use it on a regular basis. So that was a huge change, and that's something that I was there for. The next one happened at about 2010, maybe. I don't remember the year for this, because this is one that I missed out on, and that's the whole social media craze. There was, like, before that, there really was no social media. It was webs, MySpace. That was
Nah, they're no longer around. So
yeah. like crazy stuff like that. So social media like really took off. And I got to be honest with you. Well, there are two things. One, I really didn't get it. I still don't. Like, I'm not a huge social media user. Like, I'll browse every now and then, but I don't post. I just don't. I don't get that sharing of everything that makes social media what it is, and commenting, being like an expert on everything. You have to comment on every. Like, it's just. I mean, I'm dating myself here, but I just don't get that. I never did. And I was also not flexible. Like, at the time, I was really busy. I think I owned a data center like in Boston that I was like struggling to keep that up and running, and a lot of stuff going on. So I missed that one. And now, and that was like the third big one. And the fourth big one is here, and it just came here this year. And that's the commercial availability of artificial intelligence and the ability for, like, it's just incorporated in everything now. And I think that we're still on the cusp of this. So this is it. This is like the next big thing. And I think that anybody who's wise would jump on board and see how they could take advantage of that.
For sure. And especially that last part, you got to take advantage of it, right? Like, there's a reason new technology comes out.
Yeah.
Use it. And that's something I've noticed too, is sometimes we get so set in our habits and we don't like change, but sometimes change can be good. But at the same time, I think you've probably recognized this when building businesses, is that you have to be disciplined and you have to stick with things long enough to really see the fruits of your labor. So I guess, when's the right time to be flexible?
Yeah.
If that sounds.
That's such a good question, and one that's really difficult to answer. If you pick up any motivational book, any success book, they'll tell you about, like, the key to business success or business, whatever, is persistence. It's determination. It's sticking with something. But what they don't tell you is that's also probably the number one reason why people fail, is because they stick with things that just are not working. They're so determined to be persistent. They're determined to be determined. They're persistent to be persistent, that they're overlooking the bigger picture. And the reason you want to be persistent is so you could get that elusive success. But people don't really know, or maybe it's tied into the idea of giving up. You hear about, like, don't quit, don't be a quitter,
Mm-hmm.
don't give up. Yeah. But I mean, that's what being flexible is all about. It's doing something, realizing it's not working, and changing direction. Don't think of your goal as that little thing that you're doing. So if you think selling, I don't know, truck tires is your way to a fortune, don't think of it as selling truck tires. That's what your ultimate goal is. Your ultimate goal is your fortune or success or happiness or whatever. And that's just one of the possible paths to it. And then if that's not working out, if that's blocked, then you take another path. But if you focus on that higher goal and don't give up there, that's the one you don't give up on, right?
Yeah.
That's the one where you don't change the direction. You stay persistent, you stay determined on that goal, but be completely flexible on everything. Everything else is the means to the end. The end is your ultimate success, however you may define it. And all the means are, whether it be book publishing, whether it be writing a sitcom, AI, whatever. I mean, these are all just little tools to get you where you ultimately want to go.
Exactly. I like that. Thank you. And man, I don't want to take any more of your time, but this has been great. I've learned a lot from this.
Good.
So I want to ask this final question before we wrap up. And you kind of mentioned it at the end there. And that is how you define success. And I think everyone has their own version of success. I don't know if you think similar, but how would you help someone kind of find what their version of success is, because I've even found personally that sometimes I think I know what I want, but then it's like, wait, maybe I actually want this instead.
So that's it's a process. It's a journey, in that, like, anybody's definition of success changes, or could change, or almost certainly will change over time. And to give you an example, when I was like straight out of college, there was one thing I wanted, and that was money. That was it. I mean, if I had to define success, it would be like 6 figures, 7 figures. Like, that was it, and that was all that you're going to see on my little success dream chart. But that was me as like a kid, so that's fine. But then things rapidly change. You meet somebody, and then you have children, and then like your children become like the most important thing in the world to you, and then all of that kind of takes a back seat, and that's okay. It's kind of going towards what you want, and just kind of redefining it as your life changes, as different things happen to you, as you get certain things. Maybe you'll say, I think having an income of $100,000 a year, that's what it means to be successful. You get that, and you're like, okay, this isn't that good. This isn't that. What's so great about this? And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And don't be dissuaded. My advice to everybody out there is, don't be dissuaded or pressured to change your definition based on what other people tell you. If, like, older people say, oh, you forget about that money thing. You need like happiness, and you want this, and you want a good significant other to spend your life with. Like, forget all that. That's somebody else's definition. That's important to them at that period of their time, like in life. So it's okay. Like, if you're just a greedy bastard, let's call it what it is, and that's all you want, then go for it. And what's going to happen is you'll find out that, hey, that's not enough. I'm not fully fulfilled with that. And then you're going to start redefining what you want. But the process is what's important. So if you just focus on one thing, and that one thing might be money, maybe the one thing is finding a significant other, somebody to spend the rest of your life with, like, all of these things in isolation almost certainly won't make anybody happy. But if you really have that focus at one period of your life, then that's fine, because it's the process again. If you get really good at getting what you want, then you could just kind of duplicate that in other domains. So it's like, okay, I got the significant other. Okay, I got the money. Okay, I got the family. And then next thing you know, you're just a really, really happy person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, there is nothing wrong with that. I think that's what we all want. Well, Bo, thank you. Thank you for coming on today and sharing your wisdom with us. So if people, you mentioned a few of your businesses, but if people want to reach out to you, find you, all that fun stuff, what's the best way that they can do that?
I have 2 websites that are important. One is my personal website, where you're going to find all of the books that I've personally written, not the AI books, just like the books that I've written the old-fashioned way. And that's bobennett.com, BOBENNETT, my name.com. And if you want to find out more about the businesses, and if you're interested in the like AI publishing, then go to archieboy.com, ARCHIEBOY.com. That's my business site, where I have all of my different businesses linked there. And you could also see my sitcom on there as well. By the time you probably see this, I'll have all 10 episodes completely finished and uploaded on YouTube, where you could watch them for free. Animated comedy sitcom.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Bo, for coming on. Hey everyone, as you can tell, that is Bo Bennett. He's a very intelligent person, has great things to share. I challenge you guys, if anything spoke to you, to reach out to him. I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you and help you navigate anything, whether it be the publishing industry or just questions you may have. Stay tuned till next week. We start a new season, and yeah, stay tuned till next week. We have a great guest lined up for you. See you guys next week, and let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and fill out the form there. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.